G'day friends and fans. Welcome to Dave Talks Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 13th of March 2026. I'm your host, the author David Applegate, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the Ukraine war from both sides, without bias, without prejudice, and most importantly, without the mainstream media bullshit. The sloppy Ukrainian slogans and all the, we got all the corruption under control. And then 5 minutes later, they find another multi-million-dollar corruption scheme while they've ignored the last 6 and done nothing about them either. But things are heating up. Ukraine is economically collapsing. No wonder, if the majority of money isn't going to Ukraine, they're investing the majority of money they get into weapons to sell to other countries. Well, that's how... And then justified by saying, oh, but we're desperate for money. Well, as Donald Trump said, stop the killing, and stop the bleeding, and stop the economic crisis. It's a self-inflicted wound. Ukraine started this in 2014 with attacks on ethnic Russians. All they have to do is say, oh, here's Zelensky, and it's done. Zelensky and his criminal cohort. It's not the majority of Ukrainians we have to worry about. It's Zelensky and his cohorts. But, of course, the British establishment, they love anybody who is a psychopath. Because they're obedient, of course. You have to be somewhat obedient. You have to be a useful idiot. But, yes, as long as you're a useful idiot, they will fund you. Remember all the accusations the other day about $7,000. Sorry, Israel, it's been a couple of days. That's 20, 30. Make it 70,000. And change that you still owe me. I mean, all these people accuse me of being Israeli agents on X. I mean, wow. You're so stunning, so brave. This is the problem. People are such low IQ, worthless little cretins. But there's just the left. Always. Because what is the left? You take out what is good. You take out what is decent, you take out what is normal, you take out what is intelligent, and you take out everything that is selfless. Alright, so as the war continues, those who cheer the most will will absolutely resist to the end Donald Trump sending them to war. So, absolutely. Alright, so we have Kiev making announcements which we won't care about, attacks in Sumy, which we'll get to shortly, and attacks on Kharkiv, the usual communications and logistics hubs, burnt out car lots mostly. I don't know why, but Ukraine army seem to have a familiar pattern and almost daily, routinely, and they just don't seem to care. I mean, I think this comes from government worker syndrome, where big government, but I crashed the car. The government will replace it. Until we bring in austerity as a permanent fixture of society, we're not going to fix government. Actually, even then, I don't think it'll fix government. All right, so we have a slight change of tactics now. Russia has been probing now the Ukrainian defenses for a while at Kupiansk. Now they're back to shelling positions at Kupiansk. It's clear, I think the Russian commander had initially underestimated the amount of troops in reserve and shouldn't have got into Kupiansk. Went in way too soon. And you look, right, Kupiansk, it's hilly. There's a lot more hills. You're fighting from open ground. Even from the north, you are held in place by... now, I don't know all the names, but there's Grad, Crab. There's T-50s. No, sorry. The T-56 variant in Ukraine and the T-80 variants, I think, is... I think the T-50... T-88. That's the one I'm thinking of. And others in the area are definitely higher than previously reported. I think Russia may have actually been misled in Kupiansk by their own belief that they'd accounted for everything. First casualty of war, they had a plan. Here is just routine. Again, they're trying to flank the Ukrainian forces, who seem to be pretty well dug in, and they don't seem to be interested in overwhelming them or annihilate. I do believe Russia has the means to annihilate the Ukrainian forces, but they don't want to. It's more like they're trying to force them back than to kill them. Prove me wrong, but if you look at US forces right now, would there not be ... all the way through, right? If they wanted Lyman, it would be ... right? It'd be majority campaign air war. Russia doesn't seem to have the confidence or the missile ability, and they could have concentrated this war again. It might be cope or genuine policy, right? You be the judge, because right now I thought it was cope, right? Russia might not have had the ability, but after 4 years of war, I'm thinking, nah, they're restrained. They've been very restrained. Putin's just too calm. The Duma is asking for Putin to wind this up, and they're talking about a 6-month timeline. And now, of course, that happens to coincide with talks with America. So there's a deal on the table, and they're trying to get, I don't know, whatever they can before that time runs out. But today I heard Thailand has begun purchasing Russian oil. America has given the current ships at sea some clearance. They're trying to get ships out of the Strait of Hormuz as well. There's a lot of misinformation out there, the media wanting to sensationalize. But right now, I can guarantee you can find more videos over the last, is it 13 days? Please tell me it's 13 days. Of Iran, right? Don't forget, in America, you are actually the 12th, but it is actually the 13th in Iran. That's why I think a lot of people are scratching their heads. Yes, it started on the 1st, and you hear it all the time, since the 1st of March, and they're looking at it saying, why are they saying 13 days? It's only March 12th. No, they are talking, and media is doing this now more often. When they're talking about a country, they use that country's time zone. I don't think all Americans are that dumb. I think the people who are making the comments, of course, are snarky. And you know how snarky people get. All right, so we do have a bit of an advance, but it is not much. And you really have to zoom in and realize that the Russians, whatever they're trying to flank in this area, definitely seems to be this hill. Okay, they're trying to flank this hill. So there's Ukrainians dug in here and here, here and here, and obviously here and here. And I would not doubt that there are bunkers and Ukrainians all the way through here, as well as tanks or more likely pickup trucks that come through here with launchers. Now, I think one of the reasons why Russia's going slow is so this does not turn into an irregular quagmire like... now, things are not going well for Russia or Ukraine. Let me just be clear. Neither side has a clear tactical advantage. Ukraine had it for 3 months and made headlines after headlines pushing back the Russians. Then what did they do? They ran into the regular Russian army and the Chechens, and they kicked the Ukrainians hard. And then slowly been pushing back since, particularly Battle Group Center. But since then, there has been Ukraine uses drones. Sorry, Ukraine started off with javelins, then the Russians brought in the Comet. The Ukrainians brought in more tanks and mobile artillery, so did the Russians. Airstrikes, most of the Ukrainian Air Force got struck down. I think Russia hasn't been able to crack Ukraine air defenses, and I think they are deliberately not doing so to test their equipment, to push the limits, because they have to go up against a tougher adversary, and that is their belief. Not, I think, ultimately, the goal of Russia here, correct me if I'm wrong, the goal of Russia here is to get Europe to accept them as an equal. And Europe just won't do it. Just won't. Can't. You're not in the boys' club. You have to be our enemy. We need an enemy. And Russia doesn't want to be it. Could have been all over. You look at liberals. You look at them all. They need, right? They never cared about Ukraine until they were told to. And what have they done now? They've dropped that for Gaza and then dropped Gaza for Iran. Now, as we see on the frozen front, there might be a few, but nothing really significant, but hasn't made the reports. But there has likely been a few battles or shall I say exchanges, but nothing of consequence. And the same at Ukrainskaya, according to Ukrainian, was it Ukiform or... No, I think it was UK Pravda. They believe the Russians stalled their winter offensive to build up for a bigger offensive in the summer, which is why they scrapped the T-80 tanks. T-80s apparently were built for a colder climate. That's why they have so many. That's why they got the T-80, the T-90, the T-72, the T-72 is... Sorry, the T-80 is an upgraded T-72. The T-90 is an upgraded T-72. But the T-72, they had so many of them, they kept them. Now, as they slowly but they were replacing the T-56, upgrading to the T-80. Now, they've scrapped most of the T-56s, selling off the T-80s, because they're making the T-72 the T-80, right? They're taking all the stuff from the T-80 and splitting it between the T-72 and the T-90. Now, why? Because the T-72 can be upgraded with a T-80 motor and be, instead of 60 miles per hour, 70 miles per hour, like a T-80. It has the same gun, and it has the same thermals, and all it needs is the upgraded turtle shell of the T-80. Now, for some reason, the T-90 has a double layer shell, which is why it's a slightly heavier tank. So they are cutting out, and of course they have, and started to, well, it's not really called a heavy tank. It is still called mobile artillery, and that is putting a 153 onto a T-90. But so far we have not seen it, and we have the 2S and others. So they're on trucks, and they're much bigger guns. I think the idea of mobile artillery, they're going to. I think Russia is looking at the best model, best fit, and just scrapping a lot of the in-between stuff. Like, why have a T-80 when a T-72 can have winter tracks just put on them? Okay, they didn't need a dedicated winter tank. They didn't need a dedicated high-speed tank. They are not going to rapidly advance on Europe in retaliation. Remember, a lot of people don't understand this. Russian strategic thinking is always retaliation. It's primarily waiting for provocation. Yugoslavia, Hungary, the invasion of Poland, they were all waiting for provocation. And right now, the best thing we can do is not keep provoking Russia. Otherwise, they keep regressing. And the further they regress from us, the more we push them into China's arms, the more we arm China, and and that is pushing to war. But Europeans, they want war. Haven't you heard? They don't want a war in Iran. They want a war in Ukraine. They want America to back Ukraine. So whenever Europe, particularly Spain, talks about no war in Iran, notice it's not no war. It's no war in Iran. It's no war in Gaza. But yes, they want you to back. The socialists. So Europe is turning socialist, and you see it before your very eyes. You know, you've seen this all before. Anybody who's watched the rise and fall of... Sorry. It used to be called the rise and fall. It's now called downfall, right? Watch the movie Downfall. You'll see it, right? And one thing you can't unsee is once you see, it was the women. And believe it or not, Jewish women helped get Hitler in power because she was going to bring stability to Germany, get rid of all the rapists. Because I cannot explain enough that women put their safety above anything else, and at times you cannot blame them with how violent the world can be. But they put worse into power thinking that would stop the Bolsheviks. Yet the Bolsheviks were their own worst enemy. They were harassing people. They were Antifa today. Look at Antifa today. Forcing women into prostitution to fund the party. That's why the Jews even turned against the Bolsheviks. And still today, the Jews hate the Bolsheviks. So don't think they're a nice united little front. And most of the Bolsheviks are in New York right now. All right, so there's this gap here that is slowly narrowed by about, half. I mean, I say half a kilometre and people will go, what? Scratch your head. Not even a quarter mile. Okay. Here it's almost nothing. Again, a little bit here and there, but nothing of significance. No significant town has fallen. This is the Russians have advanced here. You can see they've advanced here. They're now at the base of this waterway. They were back here before. They have taken more territory here. And you notice, the town, the Russians have a wider front against the town. Now, the frontier appears to be staggered with a little bit of gains here and there. Nothing of significance, but they're still fighting. Mostly shelling. That's why you got the forward line sit there all day hearing poo, poo. And they're not that many. It's not a rhythm of guns or explosions or rapid, intense explosions. It's periodic fire. Now, we have periodic shelling of the areas around the front lines as we head towards Zaporozhye. And as we go through Zaporozhye, the so-called Great Liberation, where is it? Nope, they're just counting all the same territory again. So, little bit of gains, nothing significant, no significant town has fallen. The Russians still fighting over the same areas they were fighting over a month ago, but this has fallen. Right, allegedly, the last of the Ukrainians have crossed the river. Now, I don't know if that's actually a bridge crossing or not. I don't think it is. I think it's up here. The Russians have held the bridge for a while. The Ukrainians crossed over the river overnight, unceremoniously. No markers, nothing. This is the problem with these war maps. Now, some companies have actually stated that they are deliberately delaying the information, and they haven't said to whom or which sites, but I think one of the companies in California whose name now escapes me, it was on Google. I'm not going to pick up my phone and check. Plus the feed could scroll, you open your phone and the feed will scroll away off it anyway, so there's a chance that it will just be sitting there scrolling away for next 5-10 minutes trying to find it, just to tell you the name of the company. But their website apparently had, according to Google, which I haven't checked, so taking it with a grain of salt, that these companies are no longer providing up-to-date information on the Ukraine war. So great. You are now going to be deliberately misinformed by because some company in California who provides all this data to these websites is going to decide to delay the information because it helps the enemy. How? Russia has their own satellites. Russia has spy planes. Russia has eyes on the battlefield. They know which towns they've liberated or not, which is why when Russia says we liberated this town and lost it, it is quite likely the company in California did not update the map, and the volunteers were told not to place the markers, and they place the markers sometimes in the wrong areas. You click on a marker and they'll give you a different town or a bunch of towns. And some places in Ukraine have 3 or 4 names repeated, like Polovoskia, and they have variations of Polvoskia, Polvosky, all across Ukraine. There aren't that many town variations. All right, so Russia has made gains here, not very significant, but they're fighting over these hills or forested areas. Well, now, apparently the Ukrainians and Russians are really backwards and forwards in this quagmire. Allegedly, just in this area alone, 380 Ukrainians have died. Now, for some reason, of course, they use the euphemism of eliminated. Apparently, the Russians were quite proud of this because they lost nobody in the operation. Of course, Ukraine claims to have killed 38,000 Russians. Wow. So the town here, there's still a bit of fighting over, but, the main push is allegedly up towards Ovosk, but we don't see any of that either. But we have, the army here spread over here, an army group spread over here, an army group spread over here, another 3, 4, 5, and then 6. All the rest up here are just, border guards. That's why they haven't crossed the border. So nothing really anywhere else. And of course, the Kursk Bridge still stands, and no successful attack on Zaporozhye or Sevastopol. The Ukrainian boats who were harboured here have been sunk. They were apparently Russia did lose a is it 56? They lost the alligator in the operation. Now, I'm not blaming Yuki in a rare gap, I suppose, in the censorship that is going on around the world. I think Yukiform has been able to provide at least some footage, but so often it's censored. You just go there and it just sits, it doesn't load. So I haven't used it in a long time, And I just saw them in the feed multiple times. And I thought, yeah, I'll give it one more try. Now, Ukiform does not just cover the war. Actually, they primarily cover Ukrainian politics, sport, and crime. And it's more a blog, but they're more independent than the Kiev Independent. And the Kiev Independent's, of course, run by the SBU. But here we have at least what happens in a Russian strike. Oh, this is a photo. It doesn't want to load. I'll try again. No, that's as best as we can get. This is a diesel on fire. There's a train with the cope cage. Apparently the drone came under the damaged the locomotive and tracks. This was actually from the Deputy Prime Minister's office. According to the reports, there's no casualties. And this would make sense since this was actually overnight. The strike occurred overnight. It was still burning in the early morning. Apparently the Ukrainian emergency services were unable to respond to the fire and were busy with other incidents. Now, apparently, civilian railway infrastructure from drones in the Sumy region is common, but they have not only struck locomotives and railway tracks, but station buildings, warehouses, right, in the rail yard. This is a rail yard. And you see in the background, that's a low-level refueling station for the trains. So, we all know there's a war on in Iran, and we all know that it's heating up, and we all know that right now Israel and America are discussing a plan to decapitate Russia. Decapitate. I was going to say Russian, but we all know it's the Russian economy. But decapitate the Iranian economy. We all know this is to cut off funds to Russia and fuel to China, so they can't continue their wars. And you're going to say China's not at war. All I can say is, please have mercy on this naive soul. Because China and India are technically in a state of conflict, but China has been trying to build its forces to take Taiwan. Japan has just outmaneuvered them and reinforced an island north of Taiwan, so China can't occupy it. They've moved in THAADs and other anti-ship missiles, and they are now in talks with Ukraine for drone boats, although really they should be talking to Britain because that's where they really come from. But you know the narrative. You've got to play the game. Now, Iraq apparently intercepted drones that were sent to Iraq were used against American aircraft today. So, thank you, Ukraine, for your interceptors. You lying pieces of shit. Of course, this is all to try and drag the US into a wider war, because Europe wants America to not only fund Ukraine, but to destroy Russia so the European economy can be saved. Because right now, everything has backfired on NATO. NATO sanctions on Russia. Russian goods are... What happened? European technology sales declined. Europe is in a pickle. Right? Their GDP growth is all military equipment. It's all phony money, borrowings, which they can just not report. Now, Russia, of course, is the only winner, according to Al Jazeera, according to the EU president, soaring energy prices. But soaring energy prices, they went over 100, climbing to 150, and America pulled back the levers, let Russia deliver some fuel to lower the price. And on the point of lowering the price, right, ease the pressure on China, tell China, nope, stop overbidding. You're only going to get diesel for trucks, not for your aircraft carriers. Stop refueling your aircraft carriers. And yeah, so America's drip feeding fuel to China. Venezuela's increasing production and filling the gap. India has just bought Venezuelan oil. Thailand is going to buy some Russian oil to ease the pressure in Southeast Asia. China is still getting its deliveries. The only people missing out is, oh no, Europe! Because your lack of cooperation means that America says, European tankers wait in Kuwaiti Harbour while we'll deal with the people who are on our side and not their side. So, you brought it on yourself, Europe, with your stupid war in Ukraine. Now, Ukrainian artillery has allegedly attacked Kursk 96 times. Yeah, when we go to the map, what attacks? That didn't happen. It wasn't on CBS. What are you talking about? There's Kursk, the Bryansk. There's Belgrade. So, there's Kursk. We only have... No, what do you mean? 96 times. There's only one marker. And that's the low IQ thinking. And of course, I can hear the Ukrainians in Canada now saying, that's Russian disinformation. Well, you cowards in Canada, go fight the war then. Alright, I highlighted Ukraine's Pravda, so you know that this is a reprint of a story. Now, I went to Ukrainian Pravda, and the story is not there anymore. So I cannot confirm or deny that Ukraine is facing a financial crisis. Sort of. Now, what we can face is this: if this is a Ukrainian newspaper, what's David Jackson, a obviously famous Ukrainian, right, talking about strong foundations for anti-corruption, when we go here and the most popular story is embezzlements of millions in the three suspects charged. And Ukraine is getting back its armoured cars, but not the cash. Hungary has launched another protest after reports of a Ukrainian attack on their oil facilities. Now, embezzlement of millions. But yes, look at most of these people who write for Ukraine Pravda. Yeah. The diversity! Yeah. But their obsessions. Russian attacks. Alright, but we do go, right, we do get stories that, yes, Ukraine is on the brink of disaster. Not just the cost of the war. Okay, 3 reasons. First, energy. They're humiliated. They cannot defend their energy grid. Brink of catastrophe. They're losing. They're on the verge of losing, according to Mayor, that if they cannot, over the last 2 months, they've lost more land to intensive attacks than they admit, and they're losing more economic assets than they admit. And now Ukraine is now debating cancelling the elections for a year and sending the opposition to the front, aka removing their immunity from draft. I thought Ukraine doesn't have the forced draft. See the hypocrisy? The left just will ignore this, of course, as Russian disinformation. But that's Ukrainian news. Ukrainian Pravda. Pravda's owned by Ukraine, not by Russia. But, yeah. They're saying, of course, things aren't going well for Russia entirely, but the European Security Council has admitted they ain't got 96 days for ammunition. That's why they don't want the war in Iran. They want all the munitions they're spending on Iran diverted to Ukraine. They don't want peace in Iran. They don't want peace in Iran so yeah. All right, so 6 Ukrainians sentenced to life in Antonina for killing Russian POWs. This was after an interview which it was an incident, I believe, last year where Russians were filmed getting tortured and executed. It was widely circulated before taken down. 2023 to 2024, Ukrainians posted videos of torturing and killing Russian POWs, and 6 commanders were identified. Now, some accomplices have been taken out. Now, again, this is why I believe there are some private homes being attacked in Ukraine. They are the homes of Ukrainian officers, and this is why they are not allowing their names to... They don't want the Russians to find out who they are, but they are. And if Russians are torturing people, well, again, doesn't everybody? And stop playing this game that Obama didn't torture people. He was the biggest torturer in chief of... Remember, Obama may not oppose the Islamic Brotherhood, but he doesn't want them to be his boss. He wants it the other way around. So that's the state of the war. A terrible war indeed, but nothing compared to other wars. And let's be honest, Ukraine ain't coming out of this smelling like roses. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. Recently, someone out there did an analysis of the channel, claimed I was getting up to 43,000 views. I cannot confirm or deny this, but I just had a random chatter, and now I don't think it's impossible, but it would be great if I could see some comments in the chats now and again. Let's see if there are lots of you out there watching. YouTube cannot deny it if you all start just commenting for the algorithm. All right, if we can just get an operation to break the YouTube algorithms, just a comment for the algorithm on my videos, break the YouTube silence, okay, the wall of silence around me, because YouTube is purposely restricting channels now and saying every month I get, would you like to grow more? Here's how, with a YouTube video package, right? The YouTube are trying to sell me a video package, getting me, and I've done the numbers, right? And then if I did get 40-odd thousand, they're taking 90% of the ad revenue back on these advertising. So YouTube, no one are screwing people over. But of course, capitalism, the left, it's always capitalism, free market. But of course, if a Republican was doing it, it would be the other way around. They would not be as glib or as excited for YouTube making billions of dollars, would they? But, c'est la vie. It is life. I cannot afford advertising. And, I have to, and, I don't think I really am getting 43,000. I think, I think I get these all the time, and I think other people do. These African scammers who are trying to get money out of you. But for YouTube official accounts to be emailing me, offering advertising packages that are well and beyond what I would earn if they were paying advertising money at a decent rate, which they're not. So they're trying to find ways just to not pay us. And if our viewership drops, take more money off us. YouTube liberals keep talking the talk about capitalism, but YouTube, the biggest liberal organisation on the planet, screwing people over for cash. And they earn billions, and they still want to nickel and dime everybody. See you in the next video. Bye for now.